WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisEye to 44321.
John Zarbano of Oshkosh is a Democratic candidate in the 6th Congressional District. The election is November 5th. John Zarbano, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thanks for participating in our candidate interviews. We'll start by asking you why you're running for this office and how would you describe your key message?
Why I'm running was January 6, 2021. As a lawyer, I took an oath to support the Constitution. I watched what was happening on January 6th, and I knew that I had to get involved. It was a moral imperative, if you will.
What's your campaign's key message to voters?
Key message to voters are values. We value, in Wisconsinites in the 6th Congressional District, value health care, education, and kindness. And by kindness, I mean neighbors looking out for and caring about each other. Go ahead.
What do you consider to be the most pressing challenge before the country, and what specific action are you looking forward to taking on this issue?
All right. The most pressing thing for Congress in 2025, of course, is taxation. It's the people's house. It's the people's money. The Trump tax cuts expire in 2025 unless Congress does something. Now, you have to remember that businesses and governments work in inverse cycles. In prosperous times, businesses borrow money and expand. In downturns, they paid back debt and either stay status quo or contract. Now, governments, on the other hand, in prosperous times, should increase revenue, increase taxes on excise taxes on stock buybacks or capital gains taxes, and reduce debt so that we don't have a growing debt problem. In lean times, in downturns, governments should cut income taxes
So what's your position on the 2017 tax cuts that are up for renewal?
That's what we're going to talk about. The overarching goal is to grow the economy and to generate sufficient income for government projects, for government programs. You know, the constitutional stuff.
So those tax cuts should expire, or?
It doesn't. It's not a yes or no question. You've got to, the constitutional mandate, form a more perfect union, and establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and secure the blessings of liberty. Those are the government projects, and we have to fund those.
How do you see the state of the economy currently, and what legislation or policy would you propose to incentivize economic growth?
Okay. First off, the economy is stronger than goat's breath. It's the American consumer. The American consumer has faith in the economy.
Consumers are feeling the prices at the grocery store, though.
This gas and groceries. Well, gas prices not so much because they're coming down and they'll continue to fall as oil companies switch to the winter blend. Now, but the grocery stores, that happened as we all know, during COVID. When the supply was low, the demand was equal or higher, and prices went up. So what we have to look at with respect, and now inflation has come down to less than 1% of target, but the prices are still high. So we have to take a look at what's called seller's inflation, because I'm not saying that the grocery business is like when Pharmabro, Martin Shkreli, where he jacked up the prices just because he could on his life-saving parasite medicine. But there is a thing called seller's inflation, and we have to take a look at that and address that.
Congress
can
take action.
Congress can take action and bring in the CEOs to testify about how much seller's inflation there is.
Former President Trump has proposed raising taxes on imported goods, foreign goods, as a way to influence the economy.
First off, let's make it clear that I am running against Grothman, not Trump. Second thing is that when you talk about tariffs, the American consumer pays the price for tariffs. So that's, as they say, a false flag.
It's become increasingly expensive to raise a family. What policies do you support that make raising a family more affordable? For instance, do you support child tax credit or other policies to reduce the cost of child care?
The child care, again, falls within the education value. We must educate our children for the 21st century. Now, one of the ways that we can do it is reduce the cost of child care and establish early childhood learning. Now, Faith Family Ozaki YMCA has a program for early childhood learning, and the program is very successful. What I would recommend is the Department of Education establish a pilot program in Wisconsin, especially in the 6 CD, because I'm representing the 6 CD. But the goal is to have child care and early childhood learning combined in a school setting, so that public education, public funding, and then if the program is successful, then the Congress can pass block grants to the states if they want them. They don't have to have them. They don't have to take them, but to establish child care centers and childhood learning at schools.
How would you pay for that?
First, well, that would be appropriations for the pilot program. And then, if it's successful, we would pay for it with, again, Congress has to educate our young and foster the education of our children. And so we have to pay for that. Congress has to pay for that with block grants. Again, states don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
The cost of housing is another issue for Wisconsinites. What federal policies or legislation would you support that might lower the cost of housing either for renters or home buyers?
The cost of housing is a derivative of what happened in the S&L crisis of 30 years ago. Back before then, developers would build housing developments on speculation that somebody would buy it. Basically, if you build it, they will come. That dried up, and now you can't build a house until you enter into a contract, put down a sum of money, and then go from there. Similarly, the buyers of existing homes have to put down a down payment, 20% or so of the purchase price. Come up with a loan program to, I'm trying to get to your question.
Yes.
So sorry. A loan program that helps first-time buyers to get into the house.
Do you support additional funding to incentivize building of affordable homes?
Yes, I think that we need to. You do that by cutting the cost of the building materials. That's, of course, again, shot up through COVID. I think for 1,000 board square feet, it was like $1,900. Now it's down to, for 1,000 board feet, it's like $300 or $350. So again, we'd have to take a look at seller's inflation on that.
Seller's inflation. Social Security faces potential long-term financing shortfalls. Do you support any reforms to Social Security to ensure future solvency?
Yeah, well, first off, we have to protect Social Security and Medicare. Seniors, like me, rely upon it and depend upon Medicare. Now, the way we can do it, there's a number of levers you can push to protect Social Security. You can have general funds go for it, or you can raise the cap or eliminate the cap on Social Security taxes. These are things that are matters for debate.
Some support raising the retirement age?
No. We need to make jobs available for the younger generation.
Healthcare, more healthcare here. Medical systems are facing numerous wins in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures in our state?
Okay, first off, we have to talk about Marquette County. Marquette County doesn't have a hospital. Marquette County doesn't have a medical clinic. So they have to drive in an emergency, if they have it, outside the county. Now, what we have to do is to prevent closures is I've developed, it took 5 years to do it, a statutory, this is for states, state-sponsored statutes. It is a plan, it's called Healthcare of Wisconsin. It is a statutory plan that provides direct medical services care to folks not covered by government programs, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans.
They don't qualify.
They are excluded from the group. The group basically falls within the ones that have private insurance. So what I have done is a statutory plan, provide direct medical services without using tax dollars. I have talked to the Senate, the Republican Senate chair.
This would happen at the state level, not at the congressional level?
At the state level, right, because quite frankly, Wisconsin's different than New York, is different than Montana, is different than California, is different than Texas.
Would you take a different action at the congressional
level? No,
level?
The congressional level would be the same. Because it's a state program. At the congressional level, we would have to, in order to enact Healthcare of Wisconsin, we would need permission from Affordable Care Act and other. We would need permission to do this. The Wisconsin would need permission,
sure.
And I would assist that.
Local communities in Wisconsin are facing a growing number of issues. For example, issues related to water quality, PFAS, or a sudden influx of refugees like Wisconsin saw in 2021. How do you plan to collaborate with local governments to ensure they have the necessary resources to address local issues?
Again, everybody in this country deserves clean air and clean water. That's got to be your starting point. And in order to do that, we need federal government has got to enforce from Nixon on. We've had a lot of environmental laws passed, and now we're seeing a lot of deregulation or defunding of EPA and its programs. We have to strengthen at the federal level. We have to strengthen EPA and provide the funds to do investigation and cleanup, and hold the polluters accountable.
Are there ways you envision working with local governments on some of these challenges then?
Yes, you could talk to the Association of Governors. You can reach out to the DNRs of the various states and coordinate programs. Yes.
You mentioned taxes earlier. We were talking about taxes. I want to get a little more clarity on whether tax cuts or specific tax increases are a part of your campaign.
Again, it's you have to remember that governments work in inverse cycles than businesses. In prosperous times, what governments should do is increase taxes on capital gains, excise taxes on stock buybacks, which benefit the rich, not the middle class. So we have to benefit the middle class. In downturns, you have to cut income taxes.
Across the board?
I'm pretty much sure about that, yeah, because you have to grow the economy. And then it has to be a flexible plan, so you can't just get one size fits all going forward for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You have to be able, like Jerome Powell does at the Fed. He meets 4 times a year and adjusts for the monetary policy, adjust the interest rate. That's his only tool. Congress has got many more tools.
Moving on to abortion. Should there be a federal abortion policy passed by Congress, or should the issue be left up to the states?
Okay, let's start with the fundamental rights. Men and women have the personal, fundamental, constitutionally protected to make their own decisions about their own lives. For women, that includes health care and choice of career. So women can choose to be a news anchor, such as yourself, and get paid the same amount. For health care, women should have access to contraception, in vitro fertilization, and abortion.
Paid for by the federal government?
No.
But that should be national policy.
That should be national policy. It would be paid for by my healthcare of Wisconsin or healthcare of Texas idea.
Moving on to the energy, what's your position on climate change, and what congressional actions do you support that balance environmental and economic concerns with economic growth and job creation?
Okay, first off, we have over a million acres of farmland in the 6th Congressional District. And if there's something green, and it's growing on those million acres, the whole 6th Congressional District acts like a carbon sponge. Now, if you talk to the farmers, and I have, and the dairy farmers, they tell you that if you take care of the soil will take care of you. And right now there are pending bills in Congress to take care of the soil, the Healthy Soils Act. Those are bipartisan, and those are, I don't know if the Healthy Soils Act is bipartisan or not. I have to check that. But you take care of the soil will take care of you. Now, farmers face problems, not with changing climate, but extremes in weather. They're going to need land. This one is bipartisan. The land management skills training and education program, the statute that's pending in Congress, and they are going to need to have education and training in land management, simply because they have to. Farmers who have crop insurance have to meet deadlines to get their crops in to get covered, and with this wet spring that we had, some of them had a hard time meeting those deadlines. So we have to pass laws in Congress to take care of the soil so it can take care of the farmers.
Do you support incentives and regulations that focus more on fossil fuel production, or would you focus more on renewable energy development?
It's got to be a transition. Right now, and in 2023, U.S. was the leader producer of oil. We produced more oil than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, than Iran. Yes, we have to be energy dependent. independent, but we have to realize that fossil fuels contaminate the environment and are going to run out someday. So we need to invest in renewable energy.
Moving on.
And, because you asked the part of that question that I wanted to answer, is that Rhode Island has a statute pending right now that it has to rebuild the schools, and they're going to go green on the schools. What it does is that it protects the children, it protects the school community, it reduces environment, and it creates great union jobs, and you have beautiful schools. So I would support something like that.
Moving on to national security, should the U.S. continue to provide military support to Ukraine?
Yes.
Any conditions on that? Any conditions on the use of military support?
I think that we have to support Ukraine to kick Putin's army out of Ukraine, and then enter into a peace treaty and to have Ukraine enter into a peace treaty with Russia, securing Ukraine's sovereignty.
How should the U.S. be balancing support for Israel with concerns over civilian casualties in Gaza?
All right. What happened on October 7th was an act of terrorism and murder. It's over 1,400 people killed. Hamas just killed 6 hostages over the weekend. Now, Netanyahu, what he did is that he has the right to defend Israel from terrorist attack, but he surrendered the moral high ground almost immediately by the indiscriminate bombing of Gaza Strip. Now, you have to remember that Gaza Strip is geographically about the size of Las Vegas, and with 2 million people in it. And so, my position is that I would tell Netanyahu, say, you're going to aid, because the U.S. is leading the effort, the UN effort, to provide aid to the Palestinians, the non-Hamas Palestinians. And I would tell Netanyahu, you Israeli soldiers are going to drive the trucks in, you're going to protect those trucks all the way from the border to distribution. And I would warn Iran not to interfere with this aid, or else.
Two campaign spending questions.
Yes.
Are you troubled by record-breaking amounts of out-of-state money being solicited by Wisconsin campaign operatives to influence local elections?
I'm upset about money flowing in because, first off, you have to admit that half of it's wasted because you can only have one winner. So the other half is in a losing effort. So we need to have an amendment to the Constitution to reinstate campaign finance laws.
A lot of money being spent is going to broadcast and stream negative attack ads, many of which walk that fine line between accuracy versus exaggeration. At a time when the nation is so divided, how do you respond to a Wisconsin voter who might ask you to stop running negative ads or to pledge not to run negative ads? I
don't have sufficient resources to run much. First off, I can't afford television. Second, I can barely afford radio. So that's not going to come up for me. But, and I don't have to because Glenn Grothman just votes wrong. He votes wrong. So he votes against women's health, he votes against women veterans. So he just votes wrong.
Moving on to education, the number of Wisconsin districts going to referendum asking local taxpayers for funding is increasing. Is that a sign that we need to increase federal spending on K-12 public education?
I think that the Department of Education should have a funding program for two things. For, first off, the child care and early childhood learning part that I talked about, and then second, to fund a pilot program on post-secondary education. For example, if a student, some students, school's not for them, and their sophomore in high school will say, I don't like school, I'm a carpenter. They should do the, enhance the Department of Workforce Development's apprenticeship program. Let's say that you want to have an associate's degree at a technical college. That should be part of public education. Or 2 years of academic degree for those who want to go on to college. That eliminates half the student debt and educates our children.
Do you support federal student loan forgiveness?
Again, what we have is that there was a, we have to shift the focus. An educated society benefits society, not just the individual. But the individual has been tasked with the burden to pay for it, which now it ends up with $1.74 trillion in student debt.
Should the federal government pay for that?
Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. There has got to, otherwise, if we just forgive the debt, that would be unjust to those who didn't get the benefit of it. So, quid pro quo. Graduated, you say, you put in, let's just do, you put in a year of service, volunteering for a Habitat of Humanity, you get to write off $10,000 in debt forgiveness.
What would you focus on in an effort to fix what many feel is a broken immigration system?
First off, quit talking and start doing. They had the Sinema, Langford, and Murphy bill was, frankly, a Republican wish list of immigration control.
You would have supported that?
I would have supported. In the first 100 days of Congress, when I get there, I will dust that bill off and introduce it in the House of Representatives.
What should U.S. policy be for undocumented immigrants? Our undocumented immigrants that are here.
You're talking about DACA?
Folks who aren't here legally.
Okay. For folks who have not followed the immigration laws that Congress should have been working on for the past 40 years, who have not done that and are here waiting their turn, should be, first off,
should they be deported?
No.
Pathway to citizenship?
They should. No. No, you're always yes and no. You're kind of. It's not that easy. First off, they all have to pass a rigorous criminal background check. If they don't pass it, they get deported. Second, after that, they get protection from deportation. They get work permits. They get driver's licenses. Let's get those 1 million to 14 million people on the tax rolls.
All right. Last two questions. We made it to the end. What's the biggest difference between you and your opponent?
Like I said, he votes wrong. I would vote in favor of women. I would vote in favor of workers' rights. I would dust off that. In a recent call-in show on one of the C-SPAN channels, Grothman said that that bill was going nowhere. He does.
The immigration bill.
The immigration bill, the bipartisan immigration bill. So probably if he says no, I would probably say yes.
Given the steep national partisan divide, what's one issue you think has potential to be resolved that could bring parties together?
Again, education, healthcare, kindness. That's too broad a statement. Generally, most challenges facing us can be solved using those three values.
All right. Thank you, John Zarbano of Oshkosh, the Democratic candidate for the 6th Congressional District. The election is November 5th. John Zarbano, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it so much.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.